What is up, everybody, and welcome back to TarHeelIllustrated.com for another edition of our Three Things post-game podcast. I'm Jacob Turner, joining me from Kenan Stadium. It's our very own publisher, Andrew Jones. AJ, I was at Kenan Stadium not too long ago as well. A little chilly evening out in Chapel Hill, but nonetheless, I was actually pretty comfortable out there. I was pretty bundled up, but I thought it was some pretty good football weather for the middle of November. So, a fun game, and we're gonna dive into it here in a second. As Carolina beat Wake Forest 31-24 in ACC play. Carolina improving to 6-4 on the year. 3-4 just not too long ago. People remember the loss to Georgia Tech, still fresh on some people's minds. We'll talk about that a little bit later because I think it has been a heck of a turnaround after that first bye week for North Carolina, and they got a really good opportunity to finish 8-4. We'll have to see what happens, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on in this one, AJ. But only one place to start in this one, maybe two, because I thought the defense played well tonight. But we're going to start with a guy it seems like we talk about all the time because that's how good he is, and that's Omarion Hampton. Obviously moved up to 5th all-time in rushing yards at Carolina today after his performance. Absolutely fantastic for North Carolina. 244 yards on the night, 1 touchdown as well. I was talking to you off camera, AJ, but it was a game in which Carolina, I thought, offensively looked out of sorts. I thought it was Jacoby Criswell's I thought he's looked really nice recently. I thought it was one of his worst games in a while today, if not all season, as a starter. But Hampton, man, it's so good when you got somebody in your backfield like that, because he can just bail you out of so many situations. And when you're a little bit sluggish and things are a little bit off and your quarterback doesn't quite look right and your receivers aren't quite getting open, O-line wasn't great at times tonight, pass blocking, Hampton can just get you through it. And I thought he did that tonight. So did he look as good from the press box as he looked in from my seat in Kenan Stadium?
Better, because the rest of it offensively was kind of gruesome.
It wasn't great, no.
And even some of I think Chip Lindsey's a really good offensive coordinator, and I saw people dogging him on Twitter. He needs to be fired, let him go.
Sounds about right.
They're the number 20 offense in America with a third-string quarterback, with a young offensive line that hadn't had its offensive line coach all year. And that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
But there were a couple times tonight where I scratched my head. The clock management at the end of the first half, again, a couple times they get inside the 10. Just give it to Omarion. Mm-hmm. He can handle the load. Mm-hmm. He told us those records, 47 carries in a game by the great Mike Voigt. And I asked Omarion a month ago if he could handle 47 carries. He's like, yeah, whatever they want. They ran 70 offensive plays tonight, 73 offensive plays.
Yeah.
He had 40 touches, and that doesn't include penalty plays.
I know.
He could have done it more. They should have given. Max said he got kind of pissed at Chip for not giving Omarion the ball there. So my point is, yeah, he's unbelievable. Now, they opened up some really good holes for him, but boy, does he get through them quickly. When he runs over Willie Lampkin, who, by the way, had 2 holds tonight.
I know.
One drive, which was very uncharacteristic because he grades out as the best offensive lineman in the country, and he is one of the best offensive. He should be an All-American. Mm-hmm. And a lot of what Omarion does is kind of aided by Willie Lampkin and honestly Austin Blasky up front, the left guard, Aiden Banfield, the true freshman. A lot of stuff that he gets is between the guards, and they've really improved. They've made a lot of progress up the middle of that defense, especially in run blocking. So a lot of that's them, but man, so much of it is him. Mm-hmm. He had the 38-yard run in the game where I think that was the time I tweeted out that, my gracious, he turns his wheels so much faster than he used to.
Oh, yeah.
He just gets going quickly, and he was always fast. Mm-hmm. Sometimes people think if you're big and strong and run people over, you're not that fast. He doesn't need to run people. He doesn't need to run around people a lot of times. He can just run right through them. There are times where he gets the ball, he gets to the second level, he just lowers, boom. Mm-hmm. And he's always going to fall a few yards forward because nobody can hit him straight on and keep him from getting any yards. Now, he does have negative yard carries at times. He gets stopped at the line of scrimmage, but it's not a head-on thing. Remember those old Dodge Ram Tough commercials?
Yeah.
When Omarion's one of the Ram Tough, the other guy's not.
Yeah.
The other guy is a gerbil.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
It's a Ram Tough over a gerbil. But if he's going sideways like this and he's kind of getting around the edge or something like that, then you can bring him down. That's usually when it happens. Or there's a bunch of guys that meet him at the line of scrimmage. And to me, the play that that embodies who he is and who he's been, and might more than any other play he has in his time in North Carolina, was his last carry tonight.
Mm-hmm.
When he jumps over the line.
Yeah, I know.
And then he carries half the Wake roster into the end zone.
I know.
That was his 35th carry. That was his 40th touch, and he had at least 2 other touches in which there were penalties. So he had 42. 42 times tonight. He got the ball, and people on the other team were running at him as hard as they could, as fast as they could, to punish him as much as they could. And that 42nd time, I'll say 40th because that's technically what the stats are, he carried him into the end zone.
Yeah.
He was as strong there as he was his first carry.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes him great. That's what, in my opinion, makes him legendary. And I think he is gaining legendary status. He should. With all the negativity around the program, more fans should come out and stay here to watch that guy. Because I remember, I started following college football in the late 70s, and I remember when famous Amos Lawrence was here. Mm-hmm. People came to games to watch him. They came to games to watch Kelvin Bryant. They came to games in the 90s to watch a really good team, but they loved Nate Trummies. They loved Leon Johnson. They loved a lot of these guys. 10 years ago, 12 years ago, people came to watch Gio. They would stay and watch Gio. They need to look at Omari and Hampton in the same way people look at Mike Voigt and Don McCauley and all those guys. And Choo-Choo. Mm-hmm. As legendary as Choo-Choo is, he's that good. And tonight he was at his best because they needed him more tonight than they ever have. They needed him to own the game. They got help from Power with the pick 6, but there was a lot that wasn't going right offensively. They had a stretch in the third quarter where in 4 possessions, they ran 12 offensive plays and had negative 11 yards. Mm-hmm. And at that time, after that, Omarion went over to the offensive line and tapped each one of them on the head and said, "We're good. Mm-hmm. We're good. We'll be okay." And it relaxed the guys. And they came out and they did enough to win the game. And Omarion was huge. 245. He had 5 more catches. There were some college all-star game scouts that were here. It's too bad there weren't a lot more NFL scouts, because if they would have had the view that I had, there isn't one team in the NFL that wouldn't take him this minute. And
yeah.
I know there are great running backs in the league, but he would help any team in the league at this minute.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I'm glad you brought up that last run, too, because I tweeted out, I think, but I was like, that's just another example, and maybe one of the most prime examples we've ever seen from him of why he's just got NFL running back written all over him. Because, like you said, to do that so late in the game, too. I mean, he's already at 20, 30 plus carries at that point, and
that was his final carry. That was his 35th carry, and technically his 40th touch.
It's crazy to do something like that.
He jumped over and then carried defenders in the end zone. Honestly, I know I make jokes about the cape, but that's when you put a cape on a guy.
Yeah.
That's when he that moment in time, the touchdown that essentially sealed the deal. I mean, it wasn't completely over, but in the end it did. That play, it's not the 55-yard run he had at Georgia State. It's not some of these other super long touchdown runs. That's the play right there. They needed to get in the damn end zone. Yeah. They had to get in the end zone there. Mm-hmm. And he got him in the end zone. Mm-hmm. And it was after a penalty situation again. They had a lot of penalties when they got near and around the red zone tonight. He got him in the end zone. He got them in the end zone. Yeah. And to me, that is a signature run of his, because I can see at the next level, where as fast as he is, as Max said, 220 and 4.4, but it's that play to me that separates him from most guys I've seen.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. No, he's fun to watch, man. I mean, I think some people might take him for granted, but you shouldn't, because he's so.
I think most Carolina fans do, or they don't really understand how great he is.
Yeah, he's fantastic, man. He's so fun to watch. So you almost get get used to it too. So you're kind of just like, yeah, that's what he does.
A couple of numbers off the top of my head. He set the school record 8 straight games, 100 yards. Yep. Now, technically, it's the record. Don McCauley in his last year finished the regular season with 7 straight, and this is back before guys didn't opt out of bowl games, so he played in the Peach Bowl, and he did it there, but bowl games didn't count. Bowl game stats didn't count actually as career stats for guys back then. That didn't start until probably the late 90s.
That's interesting.
Late 90s. So he did it 8 straight times, but it's not in the record books as 8 straight, so Omarion has that. He passed McCauley and Kelvin Bryant in rushing. And he is now one of only 3 Tar Heels to ever have at least 3 200-yard seasons in their careers. Mike Voigt and famous Amos Lawrence are the other 2. This is big-time company.
Yeah.
This is big time. Don McCauley, his last year, set the NCAA single-season rushing record. He broke O.J. Simpson's record. He was the guy at that time. And it's back when that stuff was really important. Because running backs were it, and the running backs were the best known players and the hottest commodities back in football at that time. And McCauley was great. He was a first round pick, I think it was, by the Colts. Had a really good NFL career.
Yeah, played for the Colts, yeah.
Famous Amos Lawrence played in the NFL. Kelvin Bryant played a long time in the NFL. Won a Super Bowl with the Redskins. And here's Omarion just passing them all by, and he's doing it in a year where he's got a third-string quarterback who took over well into the year, and he's got a very young offensive line that had been banged up, and the offensive line coach has been sick and in and out and stuff like that, and Omarion's still just churning out numbers, man.
It's a big time, man. Yeah. No, he's absolutely fantastic. Big reason Carolina's sitting where they are right now with the turnaround. But let's talk about the defense too. I mean, I think it was one of the better defensive displays of the season. I think that kind of goes without saying. I thought it was a game in which it was kind of refreshing in a way, especially against Wake Forest, with some of the incredibly high scoring games we've seen against the Demon Deacons in the past few years, to actually watch kind of a defensive slugfest. Neither team really moving the ball much for big chunks of that game for different reasons. But I thought Carolina defensively was big time. It all culminated in that Power Eccles pick 6, man. Completely flipped the game because it was looking at that time like, man, the defense needs to get a stop here. You can't let Wake Forest go down the field and score, but he gets that. It makes it 24-10, and I just thought that really was a culmination of how good the defense played at times. Still things they can clean up, still things they can get better at, but when you look at the turnovers they forced tonight, I thought it was Travis Shaw's best game as a Tar Heel. I thought he was really, really good at times tonight and made some big-time plays. Obviously, we got the fumble late on as well, which was big time and kind of was able to seal the deal for Carolina. But again, it all starts kind of with the Power Eccles pick 6, but I thought it was one of the best defensive displays we've seen tonight, and maybe one of the most complete, because you saw them forcing turnovers, you saw them making key plays at times. And I know the Wake Forest backup quarterback coming in played a little bit of a factor and obviously hurt them a little bit, but we've also seen this Carolina defense in many recent years get absolutely torched by backup quarterbacks no one's ever heard of. So I think you have to give the defense a lot of credit tonight. But again, that Power Eccles pick 6, I really thought really was a culmination of just how good the defense was tonight, in my opinion.
Yeah, Michael Kern came in. The first pass he threw was a 28-yard completion, and I tweeted out that backup quarterbacks in Kenan Stadium in November are Carolina's kryptonite.
Oh, yeah. It didn't look good.
But you're right. They played really well. In fact, that 40-yard completion they had with a minute 20 left or minute 40 left.
Yeah.
On that snap before that play, Wake still wasn't at 300 yards. And if whatever would have happened, Carolina was very close to having 3 straight games holding its opponents to under 300 yards, which says a lot, especially dealing with the slow mesh, especially dealing with a great running back like Claiborne, who's a really, really good player. So the defense did a lot. And Power's interception was enormous. It was enormous for a couple of reasons, because Wake, Bachmeier got hurt the first play of the second half. And then Kern came in. They went down and scored. And then Carolina didn't do anything. Wake got the ball back. You're like, man, the Tar Heels need to stop. This is a game right now. And it was, 17-10 at the time. So this was about the midpoint of the third quarter, and Carolina's offense was really struggling. So get on the field, have to get a stop, get the ball back to the offense, maybe just give the Omarion a bunch of time, see if we can get going. And that was a big play. I thought at that moment, okay, Carolina's going to put a foot on and they're going to pull away here. But it just wasn't a great night offensively outside of Omarion and some of the stuff the O-line did for Omarion. But it turned out that play was big. Carolina kind of gave it back to him with the turnover that led to a 7-yard Wake Forest touchdown drive. In fact, I think it was the first play after that fumble. So they gave it back, but it's good that they had it because Wake scored at the end. And who's to say that some people might say, well, Carolina's a little bit in prevent. and Wake was able to move down the field. I don't think so. Tar Heels will try to keep him out of the end zone because the onside kick factor, and the onside kick damn near went Wake's way.
Mm-hmm.
So that was an enormous play. And that's their third interception for return for a touchdown this year.
Yeah.
And prior to the first one in this group was Caleb Cost against Pitt.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to that, they had 2 interceptions for touchdowns in the MAC Part 2 era. That was Storm Duck in the bowl game right in front of you.
Yep.
And you shot the military ball.
Yep.
And the other one was against Wake Forest in 21. I can't remember who had that, but that's it. And then the other non-offensive touchdown was an Elijah Huzzy punt return against Pitt last year up in Pittsburgh. They had 3 non-offensive touchdowns in 5 seasons in 3 games until they blocked the punt and scored against JMU. They have 5 of those now since then, which is pretty damn impressive.
It is.
So the pick 6, they've had a DB do it, they've had a defensive lineman do it, and they've had Power Eccles do it. And I believe it was Jacoby Criswell who said that Power returning the interception for a touchdown was a lot faster than Javari Ritzy doing it. So Power looked fast, man. He accelerated.
He did.
He almost had one against Georgia State a few years ago, and he was a true freshman.
Yeah.
In fact, he did take it back, but he stepped out of bounds.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him about that tonight, and he's like, yeah, that was a pick 6 in my heart. The one against Georgia State. So now he has one for real. He's got one in his heart, and he's got one for real. And it was an enormous play. And it shows you, he said he was in vision coverage, I think is what he called it, where he kind of drops back and he reads the running back. And if he doesn't have to stay at the running back, his eyes are on the quarterback. It looked to me like the quarterback didn't see him.
Yeah, he did. He
eyes
did.
are right on him. Mm-hmm. And I asked him, I said, what's the difference now when you drop back in that kind of coverage with the way the front line's playing now and has been for a few weeks as opposed to 6 weeks ago? Mm-hmm. In a roundabout way, he basically said that he almost loses the quarterback sometimes. Because of the rush, there's so much pressure. It's like almost like a tidal wave that the shorter quarterbacks, he has a harder time seeing them, but he knows if he has a harder time seeing them, he has a hard time seeing him. Mm-hmm. They're still going to get rid of the ball a lot. So the Tar Heels have, 6 interceptions in the last 3 games? They have 2 of they had 2 all season, and they had 2 at UVA, 2 at FSU, and 2 today. Mm-hmm. So they have 8 interceptions this season, and 2 have come in each of the last 3 games, plus they got another fumble today. So I think there's something to say about that. Again, there's a correlation between the pass rush and getting interceptions and all that good stuff. So Power made a great play, but an assist to the guys up front for helping him make that play and making him basically invisible to the quarterback. And that's how he was able to make that catch and take it into the end zone. So the defense is playing a lot better. It's a lot more what Jeff Collins envisioned all along. And you can say they didn't play great offenses or whatever. At some point, you've got to just give them credit.
Yeah.
Credit is due. And they've been fantastic. They've given up 49 in these 3 games that they've won, 3 games in a row that they've won. I think the total score is 107 to 49. 107 to 49.
It's impressive, man.
They're playing. Because it's 107 to 49. Mm-hmm. And they've given up an average of about 265 yards.
Mm-hmm. They've been good, man. I mean, I really do. Yeah.
If it was another program's helmets and uniforms doing that, Carolina fans look and say, hey, man, they're playing really well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they are playing really well.
There's a lot of reasons to be, I think, excited about what this defense has done in recent weeks. Hopefully it continues for Carolina's sake over the next couple of weeks because, we'll talk about it obviously later on over the next few weeks. We'll talk about it later on here in a second. But, still some tricky games ahead for North Carolina to have to navigate. But, again, I thought it was one of the better defensive performances we've seen tonight. And a lot of push-ups for Jeff Collins. I don't know if you saw Jeff Collins down on the sidelines doing push-ups, AJ, but he was busting them out. We
saw him go in the elevator.
Busting them out.
And Chip Alexander from the NNO kind of walked over to him and door said, Coach, how many push-ups did you do tonight? He said, a lot.
He was busting them out, man.
He also has to give out 3 cookie cakes because the turnovers. And we don't know. I asked Power, I said, what do you get? Because if you get a turnover in a game, you get a cookie cake. Mm-hmm. So what do you get if you take it in the end zone? He's like, I don't know. So you got to ask Javari. What did Javari get? What did Caleb get?
Yeah, get some back.
This is some hard-hitting journalism stuff.
Yeah, you get 2 cookie cakes, maybe. I don't know.
we were joking, said that'll just get like a wedding cake, something.
Yeah, extra icing on the cookie cake. I don't know. You got to get something though. I mean,
creamy. You get really not the sugary kind, the creamy kind.
I wonder if he buys them. Like, does Jeff Collins go to Harris Teeter and get 8 cookie cakes himself? Like, I need to know a little more logistics about this. I want to know who's picking up the cookie
cakes are always at like Sam's Club.
Yeah, you can just.
And there's a Sam's Club over by Duke. You know what I'm talking about, right? He can roll in there and walk out with some cookie cakes and a lot of bags of candy because he gives out candy bars and they do it in practice.
That's true. He could just.
But this would be some sneak journal. I remember when Chuck Amato got fired. I was camping out at the Murphy Center over at NC State, and Chuck's loading his yellow Corvette with stuff. I'm like, yeah, I think there's a sign. Yeah. So I ended up breaking that story because I got, hey, I saw Chuck doing this. Well, I guess you're not wrong. What you saw isn't wrong. That was what somebody told me. Anyway, I could go to Sam's Club tomorrow. Since you live around here, you could go to Sam's Club tomorrow, scope out Jeff Collins, and find out what other kind of treat he buys.
Yeah, I'd love to know.
Pick 6 is.
Little binoculars out, hiding the bushes or something. Yeah, it's. I need to know.
Can you imagine like Jahvaree Ritzie just crushing a sheet?
Oh, it'd be over, man. It'd be over. It'd be over. Especially after a game.
You have to pull out one of the little flowers on it. Just spike it.
Especially after a game, man. Yeah. By the way, I don't know what's least surprising, or what Omarion Hampton did today, or the fact that Chuck Amato had a yellow Corvette. I don't know which one is.
He had red and yellow. He had red and yellow.
Of course he did, AJ. Of course he did. That is the most Chuck Amato thing I've ever heard.
Told you Chuck Amato stories.
Yeah, I've heard a few. I don't know if I remember. You probably did tell me at some point, but
we'll do a pod this. We can't. The Carolina fans don't want to hear it. But.
Yeah, well, you sneak him in every once in a while.
Although he did talk about some funny stuff about John Bunting.
I'm shipping.
We'll save it for another time.
Yeah, we'll save that for another podcast.
Why does he hate me so much? Why does he always try to start crap with me?
Your Amato impersonation is fantastic. It's almost as good as your Dina impersonation, but probably not quite on that level.
One of these days, I'll do a conversation interview. Dina interviewing Chuck Amato.
Oh, good Lord. Lord have mercy. We can just get you on a pod doing that for 30 minutes. We'll see how many people tune into that. Probably not too many, but it'd be a few, I think. We might get a few likes on that. But AJ, it's late night edition of the pod, 1:37 in the morning right now, but we still got we got one more thing to talk about, and I want to talk about
3 more things to write.
Yeah, I know, man. The grind doesn't stop, especially this time of year, especially the 8 o'clock games. They are just absolutely brutal at times, but we'll battle through it as we always do. But bowl eligibility now, let's talk about what this means. Obviously, Carolina, it wasn't that long ago. I said it earlier. It wasn't that long ago. Carolina was 3-4, coming off a loss to Georgia Tech. Tylee Kraft passing, a lot of adversity this team had to deal with early in the year. Mac Brown's been saying this team's going to get better as the year goes on, and right now they're proving to do that. So 6-4 now. They're officially bowl eligible. Trip to Boston College next. I do think, despite Castellanos deciding he didn't want to play football at Boston College anymore, I think it's going to be a tricky game because BC is still playing some good football. Gave SMU a test today at SMU as well. So that is no means going to be a pushover game for North Carolina, but I do think it's a good opportunity to get 7 wins on the board. So we'll see what happens. But I think overall, man, it wasn't the prettiest game today. I mean, I don't think anybody's going to say it was, but I do think when you look at it, like we've talked about, Omarion Hampton continues to shine. It's been the storyline all season. You know who he is. And again, I think fans need to appreciate what he is more because he's absolutely fantastic. But the defense is continuing to kind of show and put together these good performances. And today I thought one of the better ones from not only individuals, but from a turnover perspective and shifting momentum in game 2, which you need from your defense when the offense is struggling. And I'm going to be honest with you, AJ, we just haven't seen enough of that over the last 5 or 6 years in this program, heck, going back even longer than that. So people should enjoy what this defense is doing too, because we've been on here and just had to figure out why Carolina can't defend anybody at times, and that's just not been the case recently. So a lot of positives to take away. It wasn't a perfect game by any means, but 6-4, 3-game win streak, bowl eligibility from where this team was 5 weeks ago, I think is a pretty impressive thing no matter how you look at it. So yeah, I mean, all around pretty good evening for North Carolina. 5
weeks ago today, Georgia Tech reels off that 68-yard run and beats the Tar Heels, and you kind of figure like, well,
this thing's over.
This has really gone off the rails. Mm-hmm. Even though they did a lot of things well in that game, they were in a position to possibly go to overtime and get a win. They didn't, and they were finding ways to lose. outside the debacle against James Madison, they were finding way. They found a way to lose to Duke, found a way to lose to Pitt, found a way to lose to Georgia Tech, 4 losses in a row. And it was really, I still think JMU was a lower point because of everything what that represents. That'll be longer remembered. Mm-hmm. But giving up that 68-yard run was one of those moments in time where the kids could have bailed on Jeff Collins. They could have bailed on Mac. But then they walk in the locker room and they find out that Tylee passed. Mm-hmm. And it changed a lot of things. And they were at a very, very low point. Kind of what can go wrong will go wrong with Max's injury, with Randy Clements and what he's been through, having a third-string quarterback who was told he wasn't going to play and showed up 20 pounds overweight. And then you're finding ways to lose, and you have all that embarrassment. Everybody wants your coach fired, and people are trashing the kids, and then Tylee dies. And you've been watching him die for a while. There's nobody watching this right now that thought that day that in 5 weeks this team's going to be bowl eligible, with a chance to close this thing out. I did a drop around that time basically saying, what are the chances? Where do they finish? And a lot of people mocked it. A lot of people said there's no way. Maybe a couple of super optimistic people like, yeah, they're going to go 8-4 because I have faith in my heels. But people who put a lot of thought into it, or some thought into it, said there's no way. Mm-hmm. And this thing's over. Got to get rid of Mac. He's done. And they put a flag in the soil.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's going to take for them to pull the flag out of the soil. Probably a couple more wins, maybe 3 more. Who knows? Maybe they won't. But the bottom line is, no matter how critical you were of where things were 5 weeks ago today, especially before finding out about Tylee, my first question is, what happened on that play? Mm-hmm. We were going to talk about 4 in a row and the state of the program and how much can you keep, how long can you go before it's tough to keep the kids? Mm-hmm. But that press conference was all about Tylee. No, we've never asked Mac a question about Georgia Tech.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Because then they went into an open date.
Mm-hmm. So you couldn't talk to him, yeah.
Yeah. So even the following that, we didn't get in that week because open dates, we don't get interviews. And then the Virginia week, it was a lot about Tylee again, a little bit about Virginia. Mm-hmm. So we've never asked him about that 68-yard run.
Wow.
So we were at that point where, man, he's going to get. We all had our questions armed because you have to do the job. And it never happened, and they've been different since then. Power said, we got the strength of Tylee guiding us. Mm-hmm. People may chuckle at that. People may say, come on, that's overdone.
That's real. That's real, though.
But that stuff can be real. I told you the Chris Paul story. Mm-hmm. Where I had it when Chris was at Wake Forest. I had a one-on-one interview with him when I was at the Star News. I drove all the way out. I drove out to Winston-Salem. I still live in Wilmington. Drove all the way out to Winston-Salem to interview him, and he forgot about it. And when the SID got in touch with him, he was at his mom's doing laundry. So he said, I'll come tomorrow night. So I drove back home. Next day, drove back out to Winston-Salem. Came in. I had 45 minutes with him one-on-one. And he was talking about the day his grandfather died. His grandfather was 61 years old, I guess it was. And he died. And that night, Chris had a game in high school, and he scored 61 points. And he told me it was the worst game he ever played. But he felt the power of his grandfather guiding the ball through the basket. Mm-hmm. He said, this is the worst game I ever played. But he was guiding the ball through the basket. That was very interesting, and I believed him because he believed it. So there's no point in me not believing. Who am I to say that wasn't true? Power said today that they've got Tylee guiding them, the strength of Tylee guiding them. Mm. You've played sports. It could be a pretty powerful thing when you get something that fuels you and you get it into your soul, your sports DNA. That becomes who you are for a while, and you can carry that for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
I don't doubt that for a minute. There's a lot of reasons why this team's playing well now, but I would not discount that at all, simply because it has galvanized them in so many ways, and they don't feel the pressure and the stress. I told you this past week, 5 weeks ago, you could cut the stress with a knife. Like, you can hear it cut. Now this past week, I walk in the football center, it's none at all. It felt like it was early in the year. Mm-hmm. Everything seemed fresh. Mm-hmm. They didn't play great tonight, but they won.
Yeah, that's all that matters. I mean, this point in the year.
They had a lot of penalties. They had some turnovers. They gave up 4 sacks in the first quarter.
Yeah.
5 on the night, and they still won.
Mm-hmm.
So they were finding ways to lose. Tonight they found a way to win, and they're bowl eligible. And I think that's an achievement for this group. And they got 2 more, and I wouldn't bet against them in either one right now.
No, very winnable games, I think, for the way this team's playing right now. So, again, we'll see what happens. But I do think Carolina can go win in Boston next week, and I think they can beat State at home. I think they should be beating State at home as well. So, yeah,
man. Have a chance to win a bowl game and go 9-4, which would be Mac's best record in part 2.
God, wouldn't that be a fascinating
thing? It would be 9-4 would be the second best record since he left.
Wouldn't that just be a fascinating?
The best record is 11-3. Larry Fedora 2015.
Yeah, 11-1,
and they lost their last 2 games and gave up over 1,200 yards.
Yeah, it was bad. He fell off a cliff towards the end of that year. But no, I mean, this season again, it's in Carolina's hands right now. If they can shape it to be that, if they continue to play well, again, they got to clean some things up and improve in certain areas. And the offense is going to have to play better than it did tonight to go up to Boston College and win next Saturday. But again, when you got a guy like that in your backfield, though, AJ, you can do a lot of things no matter how you're looking, because he's always gonna pull through for you. So yeah, good. Like I said, all around good night for North Carolina, I think. And yeah, if you're a Carolina fan, I think you should be feeling pretty good about how this team can maybe close the season. 31-24 win over Wake Forest. Again, Carolina improving to 6-4 in the year. 3-3 in ACC play, so back to 500 in league play, and we'll see if they can go to 4-3 in ACC play next weekend in Boston. I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. Another edition of our Three Things post-game podcast, a late night edition. I guess I should say early morning edition, because it's 1:47 in the morning over here now. We're officially on Sunday, a Sunday morning edition of our Three Things post-game podcast. AJ's got to go write God knows how many words. I need to get this video up before 3 a.m. in the morning, so we need to go ahead and get the heck out of here. But I appreciate you guys watching as always. Like the video below. I mean, AJ, we should get some likes on this video. I mean, like the video if you're excited about the win. I mean, can we not get 100 likes on here? I mean, come on, guys. Let's run it up a little bit. Let's see if we can put something together. But appreciate y'all watching. I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. Like, share, subscribe. Hit the notification bell, too. See y'all next time. Thanks.